Namaste, Jai Bharat. The recent movie from Bharat, Dhurander, made such impact, especially in Pakistan, because the movie really was exposing Pakistani terrorist structure and operations. The name Dhurander is very interesting. It immediately brought me back the memory of an old Hindi movie, just forgot the name, where very famous actor Utpal Dutt. Incidentally, Utpal Dutt is supposed to be a Shakespearean scholar. When I was a student doing MA, Professor Hom Chaudhary, who was head of the Department of English, had invited Professor Utpal Dutt for a talk, not as a film actor, but as an academic scholar to speak on Shakespeare, which of course we happen to hear. So his scholarship is of course is at its place great. So in one movie, his name, that catches you. His name was Dhurander Bhattavadekar. So when the movie came, I remembered Utpal Dutt, the great actor, Dhurander Bhattavadekar. But this movie is only Dhurander, and it exposes Pakistani terrorist networks, operatives, involvement of the state in it, and how nasty they can go, to what extent they can go, etc., etc., etc. All right. Now this, in the past, after the 60s, and after the Gulf boom, Gulf oil boom, the Hindi film industry was slowly but steadily captured by the radical Muslims, radical Islam. You see the cases of Dawood, Ibrahim, etc., etc., etc. They had their grip on Hindi movies. Many good actors were gradually withdrawing. Then suddenly what should I say? The typical specimens, both actors and actresses, were on the screen doing so many anachronistic things, funny dances, which a person above a certain level of IQ can't enjoy. So it had got degraded itself to gutters, like very, very trash and very trivial kind of movies which don't convey any message to you. There you have seen something which itself bugged people those days. The villain is always a Pandit, or Brahmin is a villain, and that Brahmin villain always has this long red tilak on his head. And all the good people are from the Islam, Muslims actually. And the story is based on a typical objective of viewership, majority Hindus. So stories are always Hindu stories, but out of place, out of nowhere, suddenly one Muslim song comes in, gets fitted in as background. This song has absolutely no significance to anything of that movie. This is a regular pattern which you would see if you go back to the movies of those days. And then so many typical characters, I don't want to take the names of people, it's not decent. So many shady characters are coming as actors, and they were projected, pushed forward, all those things went on. And the quality of Hindi movies, which used to be really great once upon a time, prior to the 60s and even 70s. It's only after the oil boom in the Gulf this changes takes place. The effect takes place in Bombay Hindi movies. So the whole thing got destroyed. Then of course there's a slow comeback for the Hindi movie, which had such strong infrastructure once upon a time. In spite of the fact they were doing movies like Mughal-e-Azam, in spite of the fact that the movies are good, the exaggeration and glorification of Mughals were there. The glorification of Mughals goes to that extent, well, that will take a different direction and we have to talk long. Let it be. Then, fortunately, the Telugu movies, South Indian movies, primarily Telugu movies, they started making Hindi movies. They were dubbing Telugu movies into Hindi, and good movies started coming from the southern part of Bharat, where radicalization has not taken that route, especially in the community, Telugu community. Their movies started with Tirupati Deva. So, good movies, better movies started coming from the south only. The Bombay Hindi film went dry. Bengali movies were already destroyed. Bombay went dry. So South became the hope. Many South Indian movies, these days the dubbing is more, got dubbed into Hindi, especially with from Telugu language. They were very successful. Bahubali is one such instance. With this change, few good movies started showing up. Kashmir Files were there, Kerala Story is there. Now, these things, of course, shifted focus because the Gulf boom was rather subsiding on the one hand. On the other hand, people in Bharat were becoming conscious. The film industry was getting got hijacked for quite some time. Now there's a comeback. The industry gets spoiled, gets lost. That will cease to be. That will cease to have its erstwhile glory which they used to have once upon a time. Now comes Dhurander. Now the Dhurander certainly it reminds me of Sir Francis Bacon and his book Novum Organum, New Organum and other writings. He talks about political philosophy. Francis Bacon. These people are based themselves on the Greek philosophy and came up in 15th century later. And many of them focused on statecraft, political philosophy, because they are well rooted in the Greek philosophy. Greek philosophy, apart from epistemology, metaphysics, ethics, all those kinds of things, were primarily oriented towards political philosophy, statecraft. You look at Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. These are only three Greek philosophers significantly whose name you know. After Aristotle, it was Christianization, and then, of course, destruction of Hellenistic religion, Greek religion, and their philosophy goes extinct, flying extinct. So Francis Bacon has a theory of ideology, and I'm not going into the depth of it. Ideology is a method or sets of ideas aimed or created for intellectual deception of common idiots, common men. When they're getting intellectually deceived, they become common idiots. Bacon doesn't use that word, I'm using it. Ideology is a set of ideas created for legitimizing intellectual deception for social domination. Legitimizing intellectual deception for social domination of anyone. Later in Machiavelli and his book Prince, this becomes very explicit. So among that, Bacon identifies four sources of ideology. From the house, one, from your home, home ideology. Ideas of the cave. Madrasa teaching is included in this. Ideals of the cave. Ideals of the tribe. Here also, that's your community. Madrasa teaching is involved. I'm just telling madrasa teaching as an example. My story has nothing directly to do with madrasa teaching now. Then ideals of the marketplace. That's public sphere. There, things could be precipitated which would dominate people. And ideals of the theatre. This is very unique with the Bacon. Films fall under the category of ideals of theatre. Films are used to for intellectually legitimizing social domination. That's hegemony. The term hegemony was later coined by Antonio Gramsci. But that is intellectual legitimization of social domination. That's ideology, ideals. Bacon has talked about 4 ideals. And the 4th ideal is theatre, is what movie does. Dhurander has that ability. That's what Pakistan is accusing. Dhurander has that ability, should have that ability, but it is not legitimizing illegitimate things. It is exposing truth about Pakistan. That difference one has to read. It's a reality told. There are so many truths hidden through the narratives of history which was spuriously created. One example is, again I may take time, but then I'll just say this too. One example is, everybody must have heard the story of Akbar Birbal. There was an Akbar. There must have also been a Birbal, not how significant I don't know. But the story between Akbar and Birbal is non-existent. It is later created spuriously by people with intentions understood. Actual story is, similar story existed in the south, in the Vijayanagara Rashtra, where very powerful, very intelligent king was Krishna Deva Raya, and his minister, or in his capacity of Birbal, was Tenali Rama. 2 scholarly people and very jovial also, who would speak this kind of things. Actually, the entire Akbar Birbal story is a stolen and of course then recreated from the Krishnadevaraya and Tenali Rama story. And Krishnadevaraya was such a king, don't underestimate his scholarship, because his minister, prime minister, was none other than Sayanacharya. And what is the standing of Sayanacharya? You just look into philosophy. Bharatiya Darshana, it's difficult to call it as philosophy for other reasons, but Bharatiya Darshana, Bharatiya knowledge tradition, where does Sayanacharya stand and how tall he stands? He was the chief minister of Krishnadevaraya, whereas Akbar is the person who did not know how to read and write. His scholarship, I don't know, but this is there, that he did not know how to read and write. Rest you can imagine. So like spurious stories were spread. So Dhurander is one such movie which exposes the lies and deceits and stories and pretensions of Pakistan in particular, and how the state sponsored terrorism functions, operates. That's why it becomes significant. And we shall meet again. Namaste. Jai Bharat, Jai Siya Ram.